I journaled every day for the past 31 days, and I learned that I'm not always honest with myself. I have felt the need to really connect to my emotions and really bridge that gap between my mind and what I'm feeling. Oftentimes it feels like I can intellectualize a lot of my feelings and really think through things rather than feeling it. So I've been on this really big goal of honesty and really just being true to myself. And I think a lot of that comes from the types of books that I read and sort of the stories that our characters are going through and the honesty in the pages. And as a practice, I've been writing more, but I still felt like I was performing. Sometimes people feel like they need to write in a certain way, or you need to form complete sentences or show up in a way that is like a specific sort of performance. And I've always felt that. I looked back through a journal that I kept before, and I always went to it when I was feeling really bad. And I would write in it, but it was a bit more reserved. And then one day I just was feeling so overwhelmed by everything going on in my personal life and the world. And I had a few difficulties last year that just kind of all compounded and got me to a point when I was like, I can't take this. I took pen to paper and I just wrote. And I can say honestly that that's the only time up to that point that I'd ever been honest with myself in the journal. So I've had these thoughts and they were sort of deep-seated and they were sort of scary. There were things that I was really scared of. And I think that that's a big thing that people have. They're scared. They're scared that someone might read it. They're scared that they might be ashamed. They're scared of saying sometimes like the quiet part out loud or accessing that part of the truth within themselves. And I think that that's really understandable. Sometimes our feelings can feel so big and overblown and scary, and sometimes our thoughts can feel like the truth. But for me, writing down all these sort of like thoughts that I was having that I didn't want to have, all these sort of like intrusions, really helped separate me from them. And I was able to look at them and reflect. So I wanted to practice that more. So earlier this year, there was a Hobonichi pop-up in LA, and I knew that I wanted to journal more, so I bought myself a really expensive, not necessary journal. However, what I like about this journal and why I might recommend it is it has dated pages. And for me, for starting out, I was feeling intimidated by the blank page. So I went and picked this up, and I've just sort of like not really known what to write. So I actually followed journal prompts from Melissa or Beware of Pity, and she's wonderful. You should go check out her page. And I don't know, some of these prompts are very general, but what it did is help me get into writing, help me get into that practice. Showing up on the page was a really interesting experience for me because in the beginning I felt that sort of same hesitance and reserve type feeling. But there's a couple days in here that I want to share with you. So one of the days was to write about if you believe in guilty pleasures. And that's generally a pretty simple question. I was just thinking like, of course I believe in guilty pleasures. Like there's so many things that I love, like sometimes reality TV, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, excellent. But it had me really thinking when I was confronted with this question in front of me. And so I wrote, I don't like the idea of guilty pleasures even though I subscribe to it. I don't want to feel guilty for my pleasure, and yet I do. I wish that I could find my shame and talk to it, ask it why it hurts, and listen to how it feels. Why does it throw me into the abyss? I'm here for it. What brings me pleasure should not bring me guilt and shame. And sometimes it does. I hope it changes. That had me thinking so much about how I operate in the world, how I treat myself for things that make me happy, finding truth in like the way that I react to things. And I think it just really helps me feel a bit closer to myself, which is something that I've been wanting to do. And I know this is really personal, but I think it's really important, and it can show you sort of like the transformative power of showing up, of being consistent, and really sort of having that trust in yourself. Sometimes externalizing these thoughts and feelings helps me understand myself better. And I just really encourage you to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and just see what happens. Just show up. It could be a word. See what comes to your mind. See what your heart is feeling. And I think that the world has felt really intense and scary lately, and it's important to not shut out the feelings that you're feeling. Like, showing up and being there is real, but also processing everything. Everything's so overstimulating, and to quiet down all of that externality and really tap into yourself is such a powerful tool. And I think also, like, finding joy and happiness is really, really important. And I think also writing about joy and writing about happiness that you're experiencing in your journal is an invaluable tool. Like I said, a lot of people, including myself, only journal when things are really difficult. Like, whenever anyone would talk to me about journaling, they would say like, well, why don't you just write it down and see how you're feeling? And it's like, I don't want to associate a journal and like writing with only negative experiences. Like, it's really important to highlight the positives and just sort of like share everything. Like, show up in a really honest way. You're never going to let yourself down by being honest with yourself, even if it's scary. So honestly, I really feel like this is a really transformative and impactful experience for me. I think that also I want to write more about the books that I am reading and my relation to them and experiences, because in many ways that's what's inspired me. Like, the honesty that I could see in books is something that I wanted to experience with myself. And I feel like in reading these books, I was like tapping into that. But part of that process is doing it yourself. And I've also practiced writing just in general, short stories and all sorts of writing. And I think it's like one of the best things that humans can do is like, we can think our thoughts and externalize them. I don't know. I'm feeling like really almost like cracked open in a way after writing in my journal. So it's an intense feeling, but it's a wonderful feeling, and I don't think that you should ever stop feeling. So even if you feel like you feel too much, which I think is really relatable, don't ever shut yourself out.